So you guys, thanks for coming. We're going to talk a little bit about the migratory birds that we have on St. Martin. So who knows what migration is? Anyone? What is it? Yeah, that's basically it. So it's when, you live usually part of the year in one place and part of the year in another place. And those places can be very far apart. So you could be making a really long journey, and then usually you go back and forth. So the birds that come down here, they fly, of course. And if you think about it, the birds, until relatively recently, maybe the last 60 or 70 years or whatever, when you started having regular air travel, the birds could get here faster than any person could. Because these birds actually fly much faster than any sailboat or any sort of steamship that could have come down here. So only recently did we, as humans, have the ability to come from, say, up in North America down to St. Martin faster than birds, which is pretty amazing. If you look at the way they come, these birds come from very, very far in the north. A lot of them will come down through the Caribbean, so we're like right here. Some of them will stay here all winter long, others will pass through, but we're really at a focal point that it's the Atlantic Flyway, a focal point where a lot of birds are funneling through this specific part of the Caribbean, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of challenges to migration. Anyone think of some of the things that make migration difficult? Hurricane? Any other ideas?
It takes a long time. They get tired.
They get tired, probably, yeah. You have to have a lot of stamina. Anything else?
Plane.
What?
Plane.
Planes could be a hazard, but I think planes are probably not too bad for. There's not so many planes if you think about the vastness of the sky, probably.
Food sources on the way down.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of, when they leave, they can gain up to 50% of their body weight in fat, depending on the kind of bird. So they solve it by eating a lot before they leave, and then sometimes they will stop on the way and eat as well. But definitely being able to fuel a trip that's that long is very challenging. And like storms and hurricane, like this is a picture of radar of Hurricane Matthew. And so this is the storm, and this is the eye of the storm, the calm area in the middle of the hurricane. And this is like birds that are in the eye of the hurricane. Because as the storm passes over and you get stuck, you try to fly somewhere that's calm and you get to the eye of the hurricane, but once you're inside, then you're kind of stuck. You can't really get out. And so the hurricane can move, and it's moving day after day with the same birds stuck inside the eye of the hurricane, so it can leave them somewhere where it's not very hospitable to them. But obviously, because birds have done this for millions of years, other birds are making it fine, even if some birds get caught in a hurricane and they're thrown off course or whatever. So let's meet some of the birds. This is Semipalmated Sandpiper, and it's one of a bird called a shorebird. What is distinctive about this bird? Anyone?
The beak looks like a duck,
beak. Not as wide, maybe. Anything else that you've noticed about this bird?
High on his paws.
Like the legs are long, right? So a shorebird, or like a wading bird, they're birds adapted to be in shallow water or maybe mud. So they have these long legs, and then they have long bills usually, because their bills they might use to put into the sand or the mud to try to find like snail or something to eat, right? And so we have a lot of these birds coming through. The Ruddy Turnstone is another one, and this one actually makes a really long journey. They will go from sometimes all the way up in the Arctic, all the way down to the bottom of South America, and then come back. They've been known to travel 27,000 kilometers in a year. And because sometimes you'll see one with a flag or a band, sometimes you'll have a flag where you can actually read the numbers on it. And because people band them and watch them in different places, they actually know that these can travel 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles in a day. Because they've actually seen one one place and then 600 miles further away the next day. So like it's pretty amazing speed too. This is the Wimbrel. It's a really nice bird that you see on the pond. And this photo was taken when it just arrived on St. Martin. Does anyone know how you can tell?
Thin breastbone.
Yeah, so if you look at it, like the breastbone is sticking out. It's like concave on either side. When this left Canada, it would have looked like a rugby ball. Like when you see the pictures of them leaving Canada, they're like insane, like totally, it's like John Candy. But like, and they get here and they're just super, super skinny. This bird, I don't know if you guys have seen this one, probably not, because it's a snipe. And so this bird spends the winter here, and it's just like super well camouflaged. And it's like famous for being so well camouflaged. So what do you say when you go on a wild goose chase or you go on something that's not going to ever happen? People say in the U.S., you say, I'm going on a snipe hunt, or I'll take you on a snipe hunt. And it's a thing where you're never going to actually catch the snipe. But in fact, there is a snipe. In theory, you could, but they're just so hard to find. And then as soon as, what happens is, this bird will be somewhere, and you'll be 5 feet away from it, and not seeing it, and then it'll fly away really fast. And so that's why they call it a snipe hunt. And the people that can shoot a snipe, because they're so good, what do you think they call them? Sniper, yeah. So the word sniper actually comes from this bird. Last year we had drought, so you had, a lot of the ponds where they feed might have been dry. So again, they've been doing this for millions of years, so they have adaptive strategies. So if the willet here couldn't find any food on this pond, they might go to the next pond over, or they might try to find a different source of food. For example, the Sargassum is really good because inside all of this, you have lots of little crustaceans and insects that are eating all this dead organic matter. And so the birds, last year when some of the ponds were really dry, the beaches had a lot of Sargassum, and the birds were on the beach eating out of the Sargassum, which just made a lot of sense. You also have different birds, not just shorebirds, come here. Ducks come here. So ducks like the blue-winged teal will come here. They come a little bit later because a lot of them eat like algae and stuff on a pond. So if the pond hasn't frozen over yet, the duck can stay up north for longer. So they come maybe in November or late, the late fall, early winter. This is a green-winged teal. This duck has only been seen a few times on St. Martin. And one of the things, like, how do you know where all these birds go? Because they're traveling these long distances. They're in one place part of the year, another place part of the year. So one of the ways we know is that people, whether they're scientists or just regular people, what you call maybe citizen scientists, will record observations of birds. And so that allows you to find out and learn where birds are traveling and when they're in different places and what spaces are important to protect because there's birds there. So it's something that anyone can do. You just need to be able to identify some birds and then go out and you can record your sightings and then you can actually share that in a way that is useful. Great blue heron is another winter migrant that's here. Even though structurally it's like so closely related to the great egret, they have very different life cycle. The great egret's here year-round, and the great blue heron goes back and forth. The osprey is amazing, big fishing raptor. You see it in the winter. It hunts on the ponds. It hunts just offshore in the shallower waters. Some of the birds that come here are very small. So like this is American Redstar. It's a kind of songbird, or it's a kind of warbler. So it weighs about as much as 2 quarters. So like, and it goes, thousands of kilometers back and forth to get here. And it's a tiny, tiny little bird. So it's pretty amazing. Here's another warbler, black and white warbler. And so Epic is a group on St. Martin, and they do mist netting and banding of some of these songbirds. So they set up a very fine net that goes through, that the birds get caught in, and then the birds are measured and weighed and banded, and that allows us to learn information about where they're going, what their life cycle is, how long they live, whether they come to the exact same spot every year, etc. And in fact, many of these birds get caught they set up the nets in the 3 nets in the same spots every year. And usually if a bird is captured year after year, it's even in the same exact net. It's like a few meters from where it got caught the year before. So they're very, very smart when it comes to traveling long distances. Slightly less smart at avoiding nets. Blackpoll Warbler is another one of these tiny birds, and this one is here around this time of year, maybe 2 weeks in October, and then it flies further south to South America. It's like one of the longest traveling of the little warblers. And so these birds, it's amazing, they unite the whole hemisphere with their travels. They unite people across boundaries and across countries, because in order to make sure that they can survive, you need to protect the habitat that they need from, like all the way up here, through all the where they travel, through where they spend their winter, potentially all the way through down here. So festivals like this, there's hundreds of migratory bird festivals that happen throughout this whole area every year. And so these birds are a window into something that's really amazing that unites the entire Western Hemisphere. And that's it. So thank you.